Welcome to FMA Talk Live. I'm your host, Datu Tim, and this is my phenomenal co-host,
PG Ty's here. Welcome, everyone.
How's everyone doing today?
Great end of the almost end of January, first month of 2024.
Almost February, yep. And it's almost time for me to go to the Philippines.
Nice.
I'm going to change my speaker here. Of course, I got my knucklehead son with me. We'll see if that takes over for a minute here.
Please make sure you're
Okay. Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me?
You sound
I sound different?
No, it sounds the same, but
you sound different now because I got you over here.
Okay.
Okay. So, and as I was talking to PG Ty, I now take notes. So hopefully I won't go. So when I go down the rabbit hole, because sooner or later I'm going to do that. I will not. I won't go off beat. So today's topic is all about testing. Talking about multiple aspects of this. We'll go into. Will you be quiet? We'll talk about how you evaluate your students, take them through the testing procedure, what, if any, ceremonial aspects afterwards, and then what to do if you're left out in the cold because things went sideways and you're no longer with your people. So I'm going to go mute on this for a moment while I deal with Knucklehead.
All right. So everyone, see a few people coming in. Hey, Rich. Hey, Eric. Remember to pop in and say hi and where you're saying hi from. It's always cool to see who joins us on these things. He's still on mute. But yeah, I'm also don't have my light.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Don't have my light up bright as bright as usual. Hopefully this is a better picture. I don't know.
Yeah, I got to work on lighting in here. All sorts of lighting issues. But
so we got Rich and Eric and Matt.
Matt, always. What's up? Even you. See, Matt's picked up Renee's habit.
Oh, excellent. And
Lyman, how you doing? From Mooseland.
Nice. Wandering around like always.
He is the where's Waldo of the FMA world. You never know. You can be, I don't know. I think if I went to Zimbabwe, I'd probably bump into Lyman. He travels so much.
Good will be.
There's Mr. Wolf. How you doing, Mr. Wolf?
Sam, how you doing?
I was down at his club on Thursday night.
I saw that. Looked fun.
Yeah, we actually, Sam, if you got time tomorrow, maybe we'll talk. Thought I had some good conversations on stuff. Worked on some curriculum. Talked about scheduling and rotating curriculum, stuff like that. Unfortunately, I didn't have all my stuff with me. All right. You might have to. What's that? Oh, and then I was talking to my friend Terrell Richardson earlier today. How you doing, sir? Love Terrell. He's hosting Grandmaster Adele de Guck.
Yep.
Tuhan Bobby Lodger and myself will be first weekend of August. FMA Expo. Definitely want to go to that.
August is going to be a busy month for me. I got that. I got Bushi's back on up in Pennsylvania, Bushi Note. And then I think I'm doing the PTI camp. Trying to get around with my new fancy hip. Yeah. Oh, okay. Wait a second. Oh, he disappeared. Okay. Anyway, we're about ready to get started. So as you guys know, the topic is going to be testing and everything that sort of feeds into that and how you prep and what you look for and how it goes out and how it's played out. And I think probably even touch on how it historically and also currently.
Yeah, the knucklehead is being extra knuckly today. Let me see here. From Connecticut. Yeah. Oh, Miguel Ruby from the West Coast. Woo!
Hey,
Miguel Ruby will be teaching with us at the Martial Arts Symposium in New Hampshire this April.
April what again?
Oh, don't ask me questions I don't know. Actually, give me a moment. Actually, it's not that hard. It's the weekend before our camp.
Yeah, the 2021 or 1920.
Yes. Well, the 19th. There's a Friday night session.
Right.
For those who want to do it, then Saturday and Sunday. So the 20th. So the 19th through the 20th first is the event. Get out of there. I took my babies to the event. We haven't taken them anywhere because the guy I was using retired.
My
dogs were too much for him. Yeah, I actually, for the first time, I actually put a muzzle on him. We found out that he doesn't like being in small rooms. And there was 3 of us in one room, and I think that was too much for him. Sounds like having a rough day. Yes. Oh, look, the boss, Mama's here. Go get Mama. There we go. Life is better. So, so that's that. Okay. So, and this actually helps because we were talking about some things, and I made this comment, and I didn't know how to tie this up, but I think this is going to work well. So, one of my concerns is that we do a proper vetting and process because we don't want our art to look very McDojo-y, whether it be easy rank to attain or people think we're a bunch of charlatans. I think every art has that responsibility to make sure that we make it look, we represent our art well. I mean, that's kind of one of the things I've been off on the last year. And these are the things, because the thing here is that if everyone has the same mindset, or that if we get that image out, it affects all of us. If we have we have a good group of people. Hey, Joe, how you doing? Wrong person. Hey, there we go. Joe, from Austria. And I think that's Joe from Austria. I think that's Joe from Austria. Oh wait, Joe Lennon? No, Joe Lennon's not from Austria. That's Chad's guy.
Right. They've been training together for decades now at this point.
So what I want to do is go over some of the procedures that we use. And then if anyone else they want to give us some feedback on what they do and stuff like that. But specifically, what we're looking at is what we're trying to do inside of Filipino martial arts.
Well, it's funny because there's a fine line too, because you want it to be, like you said, showing good quality, all that kind of good stuff, but you also want it to be attainable for the level of time, so that people feel like, hey, I can get there. I can do this. I want to do this, and I can see a path to that. If you start out at the the quote God level, right? No one feels like they can do that, and it's like, oh, that's special, or it's fake. You don't want either of those two things. So you got to be somewhere in the middle of that spectrum of bad representation for, hey, this is a joke, or hey, this is just unobtainium. Just a side thought there.
Yep. Well, so first of all, I will say this, that my standards have changed over the years based on a bunch of factors. So a simple one is that I teach more people. Okay. It is, I will tell anyone, it's and I've had some people go back and forth on this, but I fortunately, there was a bunch of, we used to do these Wednesday night socials in Buffalo, or and where it was like multiple styles got together. We'd meet out at a bar, at a restaurant with a bar in it, and we talk. And then someone, inevitably somebody picks on Taekwondo because they're easy targets. So as we talk, and I understand exactly what goes on. There are some Taekwondo schools that have become puppy mills. Okay. We do know, or, black belt factories where they're just trying to put out black belts, and it's more about the business, not about quality. We know those, but that's not just Taekwondo. That's all martial arts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But as I was explaining to one of my associates who just has a couple students and who's making fun of it, I'm like, hey, and we talked to this guy, Randy, who builds homes. I go, Randy, how many houses do you build at a time? How about build one? How hard would it be for you to build 5? Oh my God, they'd be shit. Well, that's the same thing. Like now just take out the word house, put in the word students, and then we got a better scope on things. So yeah, I'm trying. Unfortunately, I have some Punset in front of me.
Aha. Okay.
And somebody's there. Somebody looking at that. I remember those. Okay. What do we got here? This is why I always do an offsite interview, and a reason a person wants to train with me. I always look at their body language, wanting this and train with me. This is how I vet my students. Okay. So, obviously that's if you can, everything's going to be different based on where your thing is. This is what I do for a living. Okay. Other people have, like, our good friend Dominic of ours has over 125 students, but he has another profession and somehow maintains a good quality students with those quantity of people, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. And he works, so he works a full-time job, then he goes teaches at night. You gotta love that. And it is a full-time school, as it pays for itself. Doesn't necessarily pay for the staff, but to them it's not about making money, it's about not losing money. Then you got other people who just teach in a park like you, or in their backyard or their house, or fill in the blanks. Let me see what I can do about this guy. You can take over for a minute.
Let's see. I actually don't know where he was going with that. That's fine. But yeah, no. So training a wide variety of people and different backgrounds. I came across this with another martial art I used to do. Was or I still do, but is not our niche. But the commercial school and its standards and how it vets students and what the expectations are at different levels it can be different depending on who's coming. So if you got maybe a university club like I did, you could afford to narrow the range and have certain expectations. But again, doing that, I think you want to be very clear and upfront. And also, if those two places are associated with each other, make sure that there are no conflicts there of perception, right? Whatever your expectations are, whatever level you get your people to, it's really all on them and you. It has nothing to do about what anybody else is doing.
Okay, we good?
I think so. I just went off on the side thing.
Okay, of course. Finally. Hi, Ty.
Hey, Renee.
So, first of all, the environment's going to change on how you do stuff. Where are you at? I mean, do you have a school? Do you have a club? Do you teach out of your rec center? Do you have no overhead? Do you have a lot of overhead? How often do people come in? That could be a big thing. I mean, like these days, there's so much we have to set realistic goals based on our people. Now, I have changed my expectations, and and a lot of it's based on scheduling. People can't always make classes the way they used to. I used to have people that were there 4 to 7 days a week, literally. They weren't there all the time 7 days a week, but they would go back and forth. So so that would be the first thing I would do. I have to look at that kind of stuff, see where we're at. Now, as far as what do I do, you need to have, I would say, some form. For a person to hit the goals, you need to have a roadmap to that. The students need to see the destination. You can sit, and when I've heard the question, this drives me crazy when I hear this question. I've heard students ask the teacher, what do I need to do to become eligible for this belt, whatever the rank happens to be?
Mhm.
Okay. Which I don't think is an unrealistic question.
Mhm.
Well, if you have to ask, you don't know. You're right. I'm asking you. You have to
Mhm.
ask, you're not ready. Once again, you're right again. I'm asking you to set me on a path so I can become ready.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people that go to those answers really have no clue what they're talking about themselves. That's why I think it's very important to have a written curriculum of some sort, not necessarily stick to your guns. I mean, okay, I have a written curriculum. We've talked about this on the show a lot of times. Currently, it's not on the wall because I did some filming this weekend.
Mhm.
But I have my whiteboard and I flipped it over. Here's the adult program. It is a guideline to get people places. Okay. Like a road map, sometimes you need to adjust on the fly, and sometimes the roads may not be on the map that you have in your hand. You need to, it gets me in the general direction,
Mhm.
But we'll know, like using Modernice as example, well, if I was going to get someone ready for black belt, using that as the example, as the belt, whatever. Color belts, it's depending what the instructor wants to do. But let's just say black belt. You need to know the angles of attack. You need to know the corresponding blocks. You need to do block check counter, which is the blocks to the counters to the incoming attacks. From there, you'd also need another one after that. You can put obstruction removal. Whether you do it there or later is up to you. What if they block your counter? You clear and hit again. Could that be a beginner intermediate technique? Sure, but it could also be an advanced technique. We have the striking styles, Bandi Bond and Rumpy to figure eight, double action abanico, stuff of that nature. What are those? Well, traditionally, those are taught as the follow-ups or the extensions of block check counter. So what order we teach that? Once again, it really doesn't matter because if you're just going for like Remy, he just taught us all the material and we found our own path there, we can do disarming. Okay, so then we got the 12 disarms. So then do we do it off of the same disarm off of multiple attacks? Now, for me, I think that's more advanced, possibly post black belt development. Currently, I do it in the brown belt levels, the Lika levels. Okay, but it could easily be post black belt development. But you have this path, and you can tell these people what they need, and you can go down that path. Now, I don't want to. I could start with all the other stuff, but I mean, you're going to have Sinwalis, polys, block check counter, the Crisata flow drill, and then all those materials should be interactive, interwoven back and forth. You're going to have the cross arm lock series of you're going to do tappy tappy, then the cross arm locks. And when we think about tappy tappy, what's tappy tappy? If you do the base level, it's all based on single Sinwali, so something we already did. And we do a lot of butting in there. Oh, that's one of the variations of trapping hands. Something again we already did. Then we do the advanced, like the Sagita space, which is the heavily Balintwalk influence stuff, which my opinion should be post black belt development. But let's say we went down that path. Well, what's that? Well, that's just advanced, sophisticated basics. It's your block check counter, interactive with a person in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You do block check counter, and I block and counter that. Oh, okay. So even if it's just a list of techniques, not in no particular order, they need a path. So I think, first of all, you need to have the roadmap for your students. And it needs to be accessible to your students one way or another. I don't think, if we have a written curriculum, I don't really think that we need to, we don't need to, boom. We have a written curriculum. Okay, I went off. I saw a comment on Mr. Adam joined us over on Instagram. I'm seeing it over there. He goes, "Hello, Uncle Tim. I passed your dojo this morning on the way back to Toronto from AC. Should have let me know because I would have met you there." Because Alan Goldberg's event was this past weekend.
Right.
Want to get feedback how that was.
It looked pretty active again.
What?
It looked pretty active again.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of photos. Maybe we'll go next year. What do you think?
Every once in a while might be fun. There's a few people that are really good to catch up.
I haven't been there since COVID. The only problem with next year is it's just before the Philippines, so we'd have to coordinate that. But nonetheless, so what? If we go through this, how do you vet your people? How do you? What? Actually, that's not the vetting. Wasn't the word vet. How do I?
Develop them.
Now I have to look at the damn description of the show.
Or progress them.
Evaluation.
Yeah.
Evaluate their eligibility for the test. So here's the thing. When you go to this club, you're always being evaluated.
Mhm.
Testing. Okay, so I look at evaluation, testing, and then graduation. It's not trying to have threes. I'm not going for that 3x3 matrix every single time, but you evaluate them. So, Ty, where do you think you evaluate your people the most?
Day to day during class.
Okay. So, yes, every time you train with people, every class they're in, they're being evaluated. I don't think that's the testing. I think that's the evaluation. You know, who says it has to be a test?
Right.
Now, when we run a formal test, are we pressure testing the material, Ty?
Not the material, no.
No. What are we pressure testing?
Their understanding and development of it.
Right. So it's all about the person's ability to perform.
Right.
And here's the thing I get a little upset about as of late and very passionate about. A lot of people are skipping that portion.
Right.
They're just doing ceremony, the promotion or acknowledgments without vetting them whatsoever. People need to be vetted. And I think you vet them on the training floor on a regular basis.
Like you said, I used to do two versions of that. One, the day-to-day evaluation, and then again in my other club, I'd actually, because there's a lot of material, right? We used to do a pretest. The pretest was actually for the student. That way, they've gone through everything. They can answer the questions. I can make little comments to help them out. Nothing's on the line except for they got to show it because I already suggested, hey, you should probably pretest, and then pretest, and it would be for them. And then when they do the test, they get to shine and rock it, and it's under other eyes, right, if you will.
Yep. But at the end of the day, it's still a test.
Yep.
So you're putting pressure on them, even though that this pre-test mindset should be a lot more relaxed.
Yeah, well, I would say the pre-test was actually harder than the test because we covered everything and whether or not it was going to be on their actual test because maybe they learned stuff early.
Yeah.
So it was horrible. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, we do a pre-test periodically for we'll do all the stuff that we don't want to cover in the test, like basic punching and kicking, and stuff I don't want to. And when I talk about testing, generally we're talking about our black belt exams. I don't want to waste my time on basic punching and kicking. I want to see what they're doing in the material, but I think it's very important that we evaluate their basic punching and kicking.
Sure.
So that's why we'll do our pre-test, and a lot of times what we'll do is a virtual test in conjunction. We'll do a hybrid. I'll do a test at my school, and other people will log in, and I'll have the other locations do their pre-tests at the same time. This is the stuff I want to see, and that doesn't mean if I say let's do the angles of attack, doesn't mean it won't come back up on the actual test. Just I want to look at that ahead of time. Now, when it comes to the physical test, so once again, I mean, I do this with all my tests, and listen, I'll be the first to say there's sometimes I don't think people need to test. Mm-hmm. They've showed me enough time and time again. Once in a while, I didn't test for all my belts. I was promoted, but I didn't test. I mean, there was Remy came in town one time. He saw me work. The compliment to John Bryant was, Tim's ready for his brown belt, but he needs a haircut. So John said, nice. Tim, Remy said, once you get a haircut, you got your brown belt. Next day I showed up. Hey, what's going on? He looked right at me, saw me, but didn't see me. And I had a huge, I had the white man fro. It was terrible. Nice. I hand him a McDonald's bag. And what's in the McDonald's bag? My hair. He opened up, he looked at it. looked at me and laughed his butt off.
Nice.
Boom, boom, brown belt. But I mean, that was that. I mean, Remy made the and listen, Ty, what did Remy tell you to do?
What do you mean? He told me lots of things.
Well, I've thought about grading.
Oh, for grading. As far as, well, he told me.
Oh, your last grading, he wanted you to test.
Oh yeah, several times he said, "Hey, you need to test. You're gonna test for third, aren't you?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to half-ass it because my wrist was healing. And he kept pushing me, but yeah, I never did. But
that tells you right there, he thought you were a third-degree black belt.
I think he thought I was ready, but yeah, we wanted to do a test, and he knew that I wanted to test, just like you. So
yeah, but I don't want to say it was just more ceremonial, but the thing is, he knew who you were,
mm-hmm.
He knew how you wanted to do things. In his mind, he probably thought you're already a third-degree black belt, but it's important to Ty that Ty tests for this, so we'll go through that procedure.
Right.
But if he just sat there and promoted you in front of everybody, would you have felt really bad?
I would have felt awkward and weird. But those things have happened before sometimes, and what I end up doing is I just use that as a motivator to make sure I'm happy with it, regardless of anybody else.
Well, my mindset, so when he promoted me to fifth, you're a fifth degree and you're not testing. Okay. All right. But I made sure when I did my 6th degree test, I rocked that stuff.
Right.
Darren, how we doing?
Hey, Darren.
Nice. And Zach, hope you're doing well.
Hey, Zach.
Man, we're getting a bunch. This Instagram live is really, really good. Now, it doesn't tell me when people log off.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a whole bunch of people listed here that don't necessarily see us over there. And I just did a hello all over there. So, okay. So when you do yours, have you ever thought about bringing people, or do you bring people on to witness your test from outside the system?
I haven't done that. I've been on the receiving end of that. I've been invited to witness several tests and help with do grading inputs and things like that, and it's been an honor. I thought about doing that, but I haven't done that.
Is that a thing usually because it's not very convenient at the time?
Yeah, it's not something I wouldn't do. There's a few people I would consider that would be really cool if they wanted to do that. I'd invite them, but yeah, I just never swung it.
Hey, Quentin, how you doing? I got to make sure I'm looking at the other list here.
Uh-huh.
So, I've done that in the past. I don't make it a normal rule to do it, but
right.
And Tim Thompson says hello, and so does Brian. Brian and Tim. There we go.
Nice. Hey, guys.
Yeah, I enjoy the opportunity, but I also tell people too. Like I've been asked to teach on their boards.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I tell them, I go, listen, I am more than happy to be a witness for this event. Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm doing, is witnessing. Mm-hmm. Or when I'm doing this and I ask someone, I go, hey, listen, I just like to have another set of eyes. I go, you really people would love to hear your feedback, but mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know your style. You don't know mine. I'm not asking you to have any official status here.
Right.
I would just like you to come on board, and it gives them something to aim for. I've done it just to things going, But now how long? Okay, so oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. Oh, Datu, it was really amazing to have you in the same room with. Okay. Okay. So So when you do a grading, what things do you like? I mean, I know what happens when you sit on our board. What do you like? Like, what do you do in your event gradings in general?
I like to do two things. One, I want them to show and rock all of the basics that are the bread and butter that makes what we do work, regardless of the style. And then I also like them to show, and then we're talking about black and above, right? Where they've gone with it, what they've internalized, where they've gone with it, what they think their specialties are. And even I also like to see, how are they doing on the stuff that is that I know to be challenging for them? What kind of progress can they show under a little bit of stress, that kind of good stuff. So there's about 3 areas I kind of look at in broad terms. I don't know if it's the same for anybody else, but that sort of pops into my head anyway. Any of those resonate with you or anyone else?
Damn it. Just realized something.
What?
I got a knee thing tomorrow, and Jerry just messaged, I'll see you tomorrow at 1. I'm gonna have to make a phone call tomorrow to see if I can push my thing back.
Oh, it's a simultaneous. Yes, it's a pain.
That's it. Yeah. God damn it.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, well, he's had some. This is the last one before he goes back to work. He had a torn pec.
Oh wow.
So he was he's doing stuff where he's coaching from the side type stuff. Like me, when the doctor says no, we actually pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a few times. What I generally do for all of our gradings, I find something that's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Find something that's a gimme that everyone should have, because I want to build them up. I want to work. And usually, like I say, hey, we're going to do Sinwalis. That's a no-brainer. They should knock that out real easy. And it's something that's on the test. And it's a good warm-up, too. And there's nothing like the smell of rattan in the middle of a place here.
Right.
So
Get your rhythm, make some noise. Yep.
Okay, so I've asked my senior in the art, my students in testing, to witness because 1, I value the judgment within the testing, and 2, I share the teaching in the right manner. That's excellent. But here's one thing I'm going to talk about with everybody. Ty and I have similar students. So we're going to talk about where we come from. I know Ty enough to say this, and I also know Ty enough where if he disagrees with me, he'll tell me. And I want him to, because that's the kind of friendship we have. That's the kind of relationship we have. So we both have students. Like, I have a student who was in the military. He's a disabled vet. He has sacrificed the quality of his life for the security of ours. He's all beat up, bad arthritis, bad joints here, there, and everywhere. He's one of our, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while, our 3rd-degree black belts. He physically tested for it. He's not going to test the same way as someone who is not disabled, who's not young and spry and all this other stuff. Now, right off the bat, I know someone's going to say, well, that means you just lowered the status, the standard. No, if not, I kept the same standard for everybody. And the biggest standard I have for everybody is the same. It's not about how good you are side to side comparison. That is a tournament. That is sport. It's about how much you've improved from the moment you walked in the door. And those who are natural athletes, I have a higher level of expectation to them. They have it. Actually, the naturals generally have a tendency of having a harder time because they have to show improvement. And if they're just phoning it in because they're better athletes, I will hold them accountable.
Well, I think there's also the piece of, hey, how much do you understand and how much can you pass on, which is another piece that won't show up in just mere performance.
Right. So when I do this, I know you have a student that was similar situations, and like myself right now, I've reassessed things. One of the things we have put in a historical aspect of our curriculum We don't throw things out. We put it in the appropriate category. Remy squat lock. I can't do that consistently because my joints, especially after the car accident. We shouldn't. I don't feel it's. I don't feel responsible to teach a technique to someone that their body will fail and not only jeopardize their safety, but the safety of the person they're doing the material to. So, well, that's it. Oh, invisible ghost. Do you think that's the other guy?
Could probably, yes.
I've been called an athlete, but it turns out it was just my foot.
That's right.
Now, you know what, Ghost? Those jokes are good. You keep telling jokes like that, we'll let you.
There you go.
But if you're rodents, you know, some of those jokes just don't cut it.
We're heckling the hecklers.
We're heckling the hecklers. There we go.
All right, good.
Someone's got to. So, you know, like I said, there's things that I can't do, and having been in a car accident that's changed my condition. And listen, I'm 58, turning 59 this year. I'm beginning to understand things. I'm looking at life through a different set of eyes. Same eyes, but a different part of my life. Why should I if we don't change things in the proper way, we may exclude people. And this should be an all-inclusive type thing. And if we're going to say it's all-inclusive, either we need to invite everybody or we need to make it attainable for everybody. And that doesn't mean sacrificing quality. It means putting things in proper perspective.
Yep.
Hey, nice to see you, Demand.
Mm-hmm.
First I was pizza, now then okay. The go seems to be your best thing. That's your best work so far. But I mean, you know, I remember and you know, in certain things, like we're conversations, debates, and stuff like that, I'm pretty good on my feet in the heat of the moment. But sometimes we talk about stuff, I gotta think. I need time to think about stuff. And I remember I was teaching in England. I was flying over with Huck Plant. It was actually the trip that Remy was diagnosed on. I remember going. I was there, and it was a Kempo event, and they're making comments. Oh, we got a guy who's in his 80s. Oh, he can really kick ass. He can really do this. You know, Tim. Sooner or later, you got to bang. You got to be able to bang. I'm like, yeah, but you know, some people, what if they have a bad ankle or something? Oh, no, you still need to be able to do this, still need to do that. Okay, I got a guy that's in his 70s and he still hits people. I'm like, that's good. Okay. And then I got older. I mean, this conversation was 24 years ago. That was the year that Remy got diagnosed. It was 2000. And now, having lived through a bunch of things, and seeing things and now I have older students than I've ever had before on average. Actually, I got younger and older. My adult classes go back and forth between being AARP club and the teen night. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, with the diversity of clientele I have, I want to make sure that whatever goals I set are appropriate. Everything needs to be age appropriate. We talk about age appropriate. We always think about language and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's not. Age appropriate doesn't mean we can't teach someone to stab someone in the eye and not the third graders. Of course, no, that's the fourth graders. But you know, the thing is that sometimes, like we're talking to kids, they can't wrap their heads around certain concepts yet because their brain hasn't developed enough to understand those things. You know, when I learn, algebra is usually taught in middle school. It's probably not a first grade course because they have to develop and learn and stuff of that nature. Not to say that there aren't, we know we're going to find an exception to everything, but I want the norm, not the extension. So the other thing is age appropriate. Well, it may also be activities like, you know, teaching hopping, spinning, back kicks. Probably not something that's good for 40 and over. Definitely not something for 50 and over. Or my 60-year-olds, or I've had a 7-year-old student. There's certain things that these students are not going to be. It has to be age appropriate to them. And like I said, there's certain things I can't. There's certain things I don't want to say I can't do. It's just there's some things it's just too late for me to learn in life. It's not worth the effort, or my body's too broken. But what we got here? I'll make a vase with Demi Moore next time. Okay, all right. So I think the biggest thing is having attainable goals. No. Let me rephrase that. I want to make sure we don't have unrealistic goals.
There you go.
Because the attainable goals is the wrong emphasis.
Right.
We can't have unrealistic levels of expectation. And every time I do something, the first thing I sit there and say, could I do it then? Like different age groups and stuff, and me now, if I wasn't Tim Hartman, the martial artist, but I was Tim Hartman becoming the martial artist, could I have done it when I was like preteen? Could I have done it as a teen? Could I do it in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, so on and so forth. So, what is it? Am I asking too much? And at the end of the day, we already know what a friggin' black belt is. If we're using that that is what we're talking about today that's the metric we're using. Black belt, instructor, fill in the blanks, whatever you call it. All it is a damn advanced beginner.
Right.
I love it when my students become black belts because then I can teach the cool shit. I mean, it's all cool shit, but I can take it to that. We can all level up.
Right. You can finally work with them in a certain level. Got their ABCs.
They got their ABCs. There was that Krav guy who talks about kid black belts and all this other stuff, and he's all, black belts are expert. And I really want to have a social media war with him because I think it would be good for both of our brands. Because I don't disagree with what he says, but I don't agree with everything he says, and I think it's all about context, And when I have our junior black belts. And yes, I said junior black belts. It just means they're black. It's a black with a color stripe down the middle. Well, the black says they've graduated from the kids program and now they're in the adult program. And the stripe down the middle is what their belt is in the adult program. So they start off as an adult white belt. But for sport, they compete in black belt divisions of kids of their own age. And like Shia is our youngest black belt. She's now turned 12. Finally, she turned 12. So the goal is next year for 13. So she got her black belt at 11 years old. She was with me for 8 years before that. And she didn't quit. She kept me with it. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
Okay, black belt usually means probably going to say basics. All right. So do we think and I was right. Do you think we need to talk about anything else there?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, there's a bunch of places you could go with this whole subject, but I mean, that's the crux of it, I think.
Well, we still got to go ceremony, and then we got to go. We also have to cover what if you're left out on your own?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
let's do that then. Those two.
Which order we want to go in? Do you want to do the on your own for a moment?
Sure.
Why don't we do on your own for a moment, and then the ceremony being the last thing?
Okay.
Hey.
Who's that?
I say buenos noches, but it's not how you say it in Portuguese.
Right.
He knows what I'm talking about.
Good evening down there. How's that?
All the way from Brazil.
Right. Very nice.
The red finger number 1. I don't know. I don't get that on this. We probably did that. So, we can do the other. Let's do the ceremony. Yeah.
Okay.
Do the ceremony. So, what do you do? What we do for the follow-up. Now, I'm going to tell you what I do with my kids more so than my adults. And it's for all of our testing. So the first thing we do, and this is FMA professionals now, Filipino martial art professionals teaching you how to take martial arts to the next level so you can afford more things and have a nice place. And don't forget about the Panantukan testing. Yes, we're going to have that in the future. And Brian Kanata says hello.
Hey,
How you doing?
hey, Brian.
So so what do we do with our kids when they test? It's the ceremony is pretty cool. We have we do all the stuff. I take them through all the material, and like I said, they've already done everything the test. I want to see if they rattle in front of everybody. And for the most part, they don't. So the first thing I do is I have them all line up. I have all their belts in the front, their certificates. Sometimes they're ready, sometimes they're not. I'll do that another day. And I sit there and I say, all right, take your belts off. So they all take their if they're eligible. Now, sometimes people are not eligible, and I tell them, I want you to go out and test and practice. So I get them to participate in the testing activity so they understand when it's their turn what they go through. And a lot of times what I'll do is with the kids ranks, we'll do stripes in the belt when they get certain levels of proficiency. If you get good at your kicks, you get a certain color. You get good at punching, you get a different color. So it's color coded. So I can see, oh, you got a red stripe. That means you're okay with your kicks, but you have some room for improvement. But you know all your kicks, and now I can go from there. If you don't have a yellow stripe on your belt, that means you don't have your form memorized yet. So it's a teaching tool for me. It's a motivational tool for them, but it helps me understand what they have to work on and what they've overcome so far. So I'll tell them line up to, if they're eligible for belt, if they're eligible for stripe, I'll walk over with the tape, put tape on there and said, okay, you're good. If they are eligible for belts, then what I do, I have them take their belts off, fold it twice. I'll say, all right, now, y'all have somebody that brought you here today, right? Yep. You go out, you give them your belt, you give them a big hug, because you wouldn't be here today if they weren't driving you, paying for this, and making sure you get here all the time. You give them a big hug, and you tell them you love them. Sometimes the parents get upset because it's a fight on who gets the belt. But it's a touching portion. Yeah. I bring them back out. I have them line up. I have them hold the hands out. I hold the belt, go through the lines, and I come back and I tie the belts on one at a time. And then we do a group photo, and we send them on their way. And then actually I have the selfie station, and I do them in groups. Like, okay, all the blue belts get in front of the station, and it says the Horizon Martial Arts in the back. So we'll do that, and then someone will hold the sign. I earned my yellow belt. I earned my blue belt. Whatever. Say, hey, share the social media. You got to put it out there. So that's always good to help promote what you're doing as well. That's what we're doing currently.
Yeah, I was like seeing that.
Yeah. The adults were a little less formal, but I still say, hey, if there's someone out here, give them your belt and give them a big hug. You're never too old to tell your parents you love them.
There you go. Well, so in the adults, one thing I like to do when I get people that get an adult black belt is not necessarily at the time. We do all of the normal ceremony. We don't, I'm not a big ceremony person, but we do enough so that they know and everybody there knows, and everybody's expected. What I also like to do is sometime in the next few months following on, I like to get them out there and make sure they do something on their own for teaching if it's a teaching rank, right? So I like them to be, stepping up to and showing that for their own sake, and also, that next little bit of push. And I think it's worked out really well.
Good. Yeah. So, and on that note, what we do in our organization is for certain belt levels, you need certain teaching credits. Mm-hmm. So how you get what a teaching credit is a degree of black belt. So I want to say for third degrees, this is off the top of my head, you need to get 2 teaching credits, which means you either need to produce or help produce as an assistant instructor in a school, 2 first degree black belts or 1 second degree black belt. And then for your 4th degree, you need 4 teaching credits. So that's produce 4 first or 2 second or any combination thereof, and so on and so forth. Now, my students will not be able to produce a student of their own because I'm in the school, but they can help in being assistant instructors as well. So as long as the school is producing the quantity of black belts that person needs to get credit for, then it's umbrellaed by the school. But if you got 2 black belts going for their next degree, and there's only one new black belt in the club besides them, we got a problem there. We're going to miss that, And so that's kind of what we do there. But obviously, yeah, we do want to get people out there teaching and stuff of that line. Hopefully, they're teaching before then.
Right. And I'm not even talking about a teaching gig on their own, a teaching credit. What I was talking about is like maybe even get them out participating in an event as a guest, one of the instructors, like if it's a multi-style event, like my thing that I do twice a year, things like that. Gets them out there, cool. Out of their comfort zone, and like even at Chad's camp, right? We had some people help out with those, and Darren was one of those as well for Chad's side.
So Jerry DeSano, my BJJ instructors in Canada, like we're right on the border. When his students get ready for a black belt, they have to teach at somebody else's school.
Oh, nice.
They teach at my school. So they come across the border, come down and teach a jiu-jitsu class. So when he's got a big student body testing for black belt, I almost I get like jiu-jitsu month at my school.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Everyone loves it. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, sure. No, that's great.
And I think that's a good thing,
Well, I mean, the reason that's important to me is both Remy and my Kung Fu Grandmaster, they both said, hey, you will start a club and you will teach. And that was one of the best things they've ever did for me, was to do that because I cared and it was important to me and I wanted to do right by it. So I put in all that extra effort and had to rise to that occasion. I think that's huge.
All right. So Matt has 2 questions. They're good ones. Sometimes Matt gets off the beaten trail, but let's talk about this one. So do you have some kind of belt display rack hanging somewhere in the school? This, I do. I've got multiple ones. I've got one. So I got 2 belt racks. First belt rack is from white to black belt.
Mm-hmm.
Second belt rack is all the junior rankings, junior white black belt, all the way to adult black belt. What I need to do is I want to do a belt rack specifically for all the degrees of black. But so I use Kitaro. That's the belt company. I had to think about it. Kitaro is the belt company I use. They will make me a short 14-inch belt that'll fit on the racks, so I don't have to fold it and have and I'd have the embroidery on there. It's expensive. It's like $25 a belt for 14 inches of material. So I am looking at some other options. I'm going to see about buying the heat cut belts, which are cheaper, easier to cut through. I'm going to get one of those. And then we have another greeting from Brazil, from Alex. How you doing, sir?
Okay.
That shows up on my Instagram feed here. So that's I'm redoing the office. Even again, I'm trying to get my monitors all set. I need another. I'm going to do my monitor here and turn it from horizontal to vertical. See how that goes. So, but I want people to see that. Now, what is the belt system? Now, I'll tell you that right now. But first of all, it's important that people see the progression to black, but it's even more important to see the progression after black. Because the problem here is everyone does the belt racks. They have the 10, ends with black belt. So people think it's the end all be all. And it's not.
Right.
I know a group that has a thing they call it completion of the art. That's a level for them. And when people reach that level, a bigger percentage that you would have thought quits because they've completed the art. They've learned the whole thing in their perception, which goes to say that names are important. And Alex says, greeting from Brazil's. I'm looking forward to your next visit. Well, if everything goes right, this September. It's supposed to be May, but we put too many things going on. So we'll make things work better. So it's important for people to see it. Now, what's the belt system? So post black belt, it's 10 degrees of black. Okay. But leading into this, now there's the original and then there's what I do. So let's see, what it used to be was white, yellow, 2 blue belts, 2 green belts, 4 brown belts due to a typo, and then 11 black belts due to another typo. Basic brown and basic black didn't exist. Now, we use the basic black, but that's more for people crossing over or people who've done the virtual program. They do that before they get their official degree, but we don't have that officially in our rank structure. It's more of an onboarding process. So what we do now is I do white, yellow, and then we turn first degree blue into orange belt. We kept second degree blue as blue. First degree green stayed green. Second degree green became purple. Then in the browns, I got rid of, so it was first, second, and third brown belt degrees, went low to high versus high to low, and depending on, because of the Japanese structure. So each belt has its own color, with the exception of the black belts. So the first degree brown is brown. The second degree brown, where Lika is the title, it's the title, not the color. What belt color represents that? That's the thing. So for Lika Isa, we use the brown. Lika Deloa, we use the red. And then Lika Tatlo, we use the half red, half black, the last level before black belt. Those are the 3 belts that we use for the Lika, or the creation, as it was explained to me, the creation levels. The Antas levels were just levels 1 through 6. White, yellow, orange, blue, green. Purple. Yes, there's 6 levels. There was no 7th level. It was 6 Antas levels. Antas means level, but there were 6 of those, and then it went 3 of. Then it was 4, but it should have only been 3 of the Likas, and then 11, which should have only been 10 black belts. And the reason why I say it's a typo, that 1, I was in a conversation where a professor talked about it. 2, Ernesto used the same structure as his brother, and those aren't there. That was an American typo because someone they misread the chart. So I think it's very important, so 2 black belt, what we choose to use, but the levels are still all there: white, yellow, orange, blue, green, purple, brown, red, black, and then black belt. Okay. So when we do it, so we'll do the ceremony. We'll give out the belts. We'll give out the diplomas. Sometimes we give out some extra stuff. We've done that in the past. When I announced my 3, I don't like the word successors, but let me see here.
Helperizers, shepherds.
Shepherds. I don't know. Oh my goodness. So I found what I was looking for. So I have 3 shepherds to take over things in case when I'm in an accident or in other issues. Maybe something bad. Well, the car accident, I could have died. Simple as that. It was a life-threatening. It could have easily been a life-threatening. It's quality of life. And had I not seen the person, I think it would have been a lot worse. But I saw it. So I have for 9th and 10th, we have the Matangdang Punong Guro, which is like a old headmaster, senior headmaster type thing. Those are so what we do right now. Basic guru is a 1st and 2nd degree black belt. Matangdang Guru, or senior teacher, is for 3rd and 4th. Punong Guru, head teacher, is for 5th through 7th, and then 8th and 9th are Mantang Punong Guru, which is what PG Thye is here. That's just, I'm not going to say, I can say MPG versus MPC.
There you go.
Actually, MPG, I think, was a model company as well too, plastic cars and stuff like that. But that would be PG Thye, Chad, and Craig. And officially, even though we just go Punong Guru, officially they're the Mantandang Punong Gurus. So just to differentiate the different levels of instructors. So now and mine is just Datu. Although for whomever takes over, I'm going to have a different title for that. I mean, I don't want. We talked about it before. I'm not going to be bequeathing my Datu title to somebody. The Datu is just Datu by itself. Those are the founding Datus, like the founding fathers. There's only one set, and those are the ones that were personally done this by Remy. There are others that were around while Remy was alive. If Remy wanted them to be Datus, he would have made them, but he didn't. There's some people who were never Datus that are making people Datus now, and from Remy, and issues. But just like if we'd talk about the Mots, the Masters of Tappy Tappy, whatever your definition of what they were hand chosen by Remy. So I understand why several people were upset at Brian Z for giving an honorary Mott to one person and a full-blown Mott to another, because the Motts were the founding Motts, like the founding fathers, those were hand chosen by Remy, and these guys weren't. And unless it's a separate title, which gets back to what I'm going to do with mine, I'm going to mutate this title for the person who takes over, and it might be Mantang. It could be Mantang Dang Datu, whomever, whatever. I don't know. We're going to work. That's a topic that Ty and Chad and Craig and myself are all going to work on. So Danny snuck in.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
And then Chris Davison.
Hey, Chris.
Chris, did I hear that you're done competing? Is that what I heard? Or is it just until some more relics like Ty and I start competing, you'll hop in? That's a nice box opener you got there.
Oh yeah, I like that because
I like the wooden handle on it.
No, this is aluminum, but it
didn't you have one with a? Oh, maybe it gave a reflection off of something.
No, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm messing with just fidgeting. Sorry, but yeah, it's a Husky thing. I got it from Home Depot and all things.
You've got a concussion?
What?
When did you get a concussion? Okay, and then would Ty? No, he's a 9th degree. Let me see.
Old news.
Siam, right?
Sham. Yeah. Sham. How many years ago now?
Oh, it's during the 65th anniversary of the camp.
That's right.
The last sparring match got a bit unruly. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, Chris, how you doing? Saw your video working out at Bobby's. You were all sweaty. So,
Chris D, heal up well. That's no fun.
Yeah, Chris.
Chris N, good to see you again.
Man. So, you do anything different for your ceremonies?
No, it's about like that. Yeah, no, I'm trying to. So normally what I like to do is if my seniors are active and still doing or home dojos are active and still doing stuff, I like to have my advanced people test with them. So to get an outside set of view, I know where they're at, but I want them to know that I vet them and stand up for them and offer them forward, and that they have to then perform on new eyes. Okay. And that adds to the pressure. And also I think it adds to the feel for them that, hey, say Grandmaster so-and-so will also agrees that you're good to go. So that's what I tend to do. So I'm trying to think of the few that I've done on my own. Don't make a big deal of it, but it's known, and it is passed forward, and the good and the expectations and where they're at. It all comes out, and I think it's a good big deal, but not overblown. That's how I like to do it.
All right, so let's cover the last thing then, unless there's something else you want to talk about ceremonies.
No, I mean, so ceremonies. Well, actually, okay, yeah, ceremonies. I think just like the ranks, a lot of times, who are the ranks for? I think it's for the organization and the students. The ceremonies are for perhaps, especially the lower ranks, right? The students that have earned them and can see their progress and that feedback, but also for all the rest of the student body and the organization as a whole to know that it's on track, to know that it's growing, to know that it's progressing in a good way, and that standards are in a place where they should be. So I think, it's bigger than the person in all cases.
Let's see this one right here. Would the reason of the founding fathers of modern Arnis didn't make more than 6 Datu is that because the cancer? Okay, so Remy was the founder of the art. I don't believe he had a set number in his head for Datu. I keep hearing all these things. And one particular person who talks more than anyone else about that spent the least amount of time with Professor. Only saw him like 4 or 5 times. So when you spent that few time with the man, I doubt very much you know what you're talking about. You might have gotten some things right, but one Professor, when in modern Arnis, well, if we're talking Remy Praeses, if we talk about what Remy said in an article in 1986 that this is modern Arnis. Well, first of all, let me tell you about that. First, you're reading someone's interpretation of what they thought Remy said to them. Could also be someone writing something to promote their own agenda. Who knows? But anything about Professor Praeses, he was a true vagabond. He was a gypsy, and all the guys that Tile has been around me enough. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to make course corrections in my life because something changed.
Right.
I have every intention to do this. Well, I can't do that now because of X. Okay, then I'll do this instead. Okay. The one trip to the Philippines, it all went sideways. Well, and things didn't go necessarily certain ways we wanted. And the phrase was, we'll just ride the wave. And that was Remy's life. Think about this. He was like a surfer. He just rode the waves to his next destination. Surfer or sailor, Why should I go on land? Who cares? Ugh. Okay.
I was going to say, during the time where, Datus were being made, it seemed very few and far between and very organic. I never heard anything at the time about a number or a target or even what the requirements were. It just, when he felt like naming someone that he did, from my perspective. But I was never tracking a certain number. And so, yes, if you had lived longer, could there have been more? Perhaps.
And were they all, and I don't think everyone was Datu. I think that there's a bunch of people who received the Datu title, but that may no longer have been the current status. So here's a question.
Here's that.
I'm training Ty's Kung Fu. He promotes me to Guru Master of his system. And then I quit. What is my status now? Or I quit or get fired.
Right. Well, I mean, you would keep the same rank, but title is interesting. Yeah, it's a different question.
So to me, I'm like, well, I don't think that person was no longer active. I mean, when you retire, listen, the president of the United States is no longer the president, but what do they call that person until he dies? Mr. President.
Yep.
It's more honorary than anything else. But someone's status in an organization is based on activity. If you leave the organization, you no longer have status. We will recognize people for their past achievements and the contributions that they've made to make sure that the current generation, I'm more than happy to say, hey, you need to thank these guys, because these guys, if it wasn't for them, we might not be what we're doing today. But that doesn't take away from what you're doing either. And that's the whole thing. A lot of people are like, well, I did this and I did that. That's great. But I've done this and that too, and then some. So, thank you for helping Remy out at the beginning and giving me the opportunity to train the art. But don't downplay my accomplishments just because you're not feeling well. That's not. I won't go down the path. Never mind. All right. Gypsy. He didn't look Romanian. Okay, and then ex Kung Fu master.
There you go.
So, hey Chris, can you do forms, or that's just too much activity for with the competition? Or are you like, if I'm going to go in, I got to go all or nothing? So, how do we get there? I know I want to talk about the people who are on their own. Well, listen. I don't know. I'll tell the Joe Louis story. Either I got it from Joe directly because I've attended seminars, or Bill Wallace was telling a story about Joe Louis, which makes sense because they were best buds.
Right.
Bill used to drive Joe crazy. So Korea, Japan, whatever, there's a rack with their name on there for their belt. They put it where they are in class. Joe walks in one day, looks up. His name's now in the black belt section.
Okay.
Looked up and went back to work. It's like, just walked in, getting ready to work out. Oh, okay. Blah, blah, blah. And still, so, I mean, does it need to be all that? No, it doesn't. Not at all. Okay, here we go. I'm an all in or nothing kind of guy. Like my fiend.
Right. I was noticing that too. No, I like fiend better. That's good.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a typo. That's what I like, buddy. So, I'd like to do a thing about pronouns in martial arts. We were talking about that today. We talked about what your pronoun is and how it relates to martial arts as well. And I just looked at the big thing was, you know what? If people are trying to show me respect and they call me Sifu instead of Datu, I'm not sweating that. But that's just a side thing. All right, we haven't watched one of Ghost things in a while here. I once have a teacher. I thought he did drunken kung fu. After the first class, I figured out he was a drunk. I should have known the class was in Walmart hardware. Okay. All right. So what do you do if your teacher dies and you have no outlet? Oh, wait a minute. Ty, that was you.
That was me, yeah. Well, do what?
So, okay, you could be on your own for multiple reasons.
Yep.
I'm going to give you an example. My initial instructor, the late John Bryant, who I give all the credit in the world because if he wasn't there, I may have never done the art. Okay. My pronouns are faint / strike.
Nice.
I think he's thought about that before. So John Bryan and I didn't see eye to eye on things. And I actually talked to him just before he passed. We kept playing phone tag. And I said, all right, I'm going to leave the voice message. Go, John, I know we didn't always look at eye to eye, but I told him, if it wasn't for you, I may not be doing this. So John and I was just doing the Johns. I left the school. There's a couple reasons. I think there was some insecurity on his level. It turns out he was a year younger than me, but he looked like older than dirt. And I had left, and Remy had reached out to me directly to be a student. Okay. Well, and we're going to talk about that in a minute because this equation is going to be different. So I left my instructor. What do you do then? And there was no one else that, well, to my knowledge, no one else was offering modern arnis in Buffalo, or at least nobody I wanted to work with. I didn't know a lot of the guys very well. And I don't know. I never thought about shopping around. And I knew there was some politics, and I didn't want to get involved in politics. Yes, Tim Hartman said he doesn't want to get involved in politics. So Remy reached out to me. But what if Remy had not, and there was no one, or in this case, Remy, Ty and I went through the exact same thing. We lost our teacher, Remy Praces.
Yep.
Okay. We both started with other people. And then we got passed up to Grandmaster Remy. And, well, in this case, this is going to be a little rough one. And I've said this before, but it didn't necessarily come out the way that was intended for me, that I meant or intended. And it's been misinterpreted. And I could have been more articulate about this. So Remy was the founder of the art. I trained directly underneath the founder. I was a senior student, not the elder student, the senior student. I had the only full-time active school, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we've said this time and time again. There was nobody left for me. So I started my own association. But I know a bunch of other people that didn't want to be didn't want to be part of politics, didn't know what to do. And back then, we didn't have the internet as a tool that we do today.
Yep.
This cell phone may have been, I'm going to tell you, tell me, you know, those supercomputers the government always talked about back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s?
Right. Cray.
Would this rival that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Supercomputers for the government back in the 90s. This phone could rival that. Okay. Tell you. So that's just to give you an idea of what technology we didn't have. Mm-hmm. Okay. I remember buying a Texas, I got for Christmas the Texas Instrument calculator, and I would use it for math and then spell hello and Shell Oil, and then use it for math. Then you go sign up for a bank now, and they for a while they used to give us calculators that were more popular or more powerful than those things we paid good money for. And they give them away for free. Mm-hmm. So so we didn't have that access. So then what do you do? Or you wanted to, you kept your nose clean. You stayed out of the political nonsense. But sooner or later, your students are coming up. You got a black belt. And that damn certificate was just as good as any of ours because it was endorsed by the Grandmaster. So there was a group trying to confiscate old black belt diplomas back in the day. Like, who the hell are you to do that? You're saying that the certificate that Remy gave me was good enough for me, but not yours? They were smart. They never showed up on my doorstep because that would have been an interesting conversation. May have been a little rattan therapy that day. Who knows? But what do you do? And you want, and the thing here is, okay, you say find another instructor. Then you have to travel. You're right on all those things. But back then we didn't have that database. We didn't have the internet. I mean, can you imagine? Okay, if Remy would have been around, do we want to do a show on where Remy would be today? If he had been around another 10, 20 years. I mean, he was born the same year as Inisano.
Right. Where
Where would we be now if Remy was still here? Do we want to have that conversation?
I'm sure some people would. It'd be all speculation, but it might be fun. I'm not super game on it, but people may find it fun.
That might be a sidebar I don't think we can do a full show on that.
Right.
I mean, but I know how big, that's the thing. Is like, okay.
He was a master of making the best of all the tools he had and to spread his vision, which is great. And I can't see that changing as he stayed with it into modern times.
Yeah. So this one, okay, here we go. Or end up studying a different system.
Some people did do that.
Yeah. So I didn't feel that there was anyone in between Remy and myself. If I thought there was someone in our art that knew more, and listen, when I say more, I mean, okay, Remy had big shoes. You can't compare anyone to Remy. Remember Janice and I watched Ernesto the one time, and he goes, well, he's not Remy. I go, well, that's not fair. You can't, because there's only one Remy. Just so you can see the same thing. Remy's not Ernesto. See, it's a two-way street. But Remy was definitely a hard act to follow. We were spoiled.
I was going to say, so even if you know,
that's the conversation we have.
Right. We were spoiled. So when I became a hermit after Remy died, after a year or so of trying to stick with some groups, I didn't train with other people because two reasons. Well, three reasons. One, I was spoiled. I wanted Remy. And the whole reason I trained and stuck with Remy because I wanted to train with him. So with him not there, I was not interested in anybody else. The other thing is that he gave me plenty to work on. I was still working on that 10 years later and refining the stuff when we got back together again. But and I didn't like some of the politics that had reared their heads up. So I was a hermit, trained, kept on teaching, kept on working what he had to give me. And that was fine for me.
Well,
I didn't need anything
you and I
more.
reconnected, and life was good all the way around.
Well, everybody that watches the show might not agree. Maybe we shouldn't have reconnected because then we wouldn't have the show.
They can suck it.
There you go. Very good.
For those out there who don't like the show and you're still watching and complaining about it, you just are fans anyway.
You're still supporting. Yeah, you're still supporting.
Yeah.
But the other thing is too, so it's a perspective thing. You brought this up, is that you trained directly with Remy, and from your perspective, what you wanted out of that situation, there wasn't really people for you to help you out. There's other people that were in doing these other areas that I came up with at the same time. I'm not saying I'm just as good as them or was at the time, but I had plenty to work on. And I really didn't need to seek them out quite yet. And I was developing on the stuff that he gave me already. And so there was plenty of progress. And make it your own. That was a two-way street, right? So if you end up make it your own is a big deal. You could make it your own and break it, or you could make it your own and be a self-consistent evolution that you were happy with. And no one else is going to do that for you.
So Remy was a hard act to follow on so many different levels. And when I said there's no one that could take his role, it was just not. I mean, it was Remy.
Yep.
Remy was a one-off. You can't sit there and make another Remy Praces. And I don't know of anyone who is, I can literally say this, I don't know anyone who's traveled the world like Remy Praces. I don't know of anyone who has who is he learned so much. Now listen, I'm not saying he's perfect. There's things I didn't like about him. This is the guy that I felt he was like family to me. I'll be the first to admit it. There's things I didn't care about him. But part of that was because I didn't understand the culture. And if we had social media back then and the internet, I could learn more about Filipino culture, more like what I know today. I would say this, if Remy was here today, Ty and I would probably have a completely different relationship with him than we did back then. I know, and when I mean that, I mean it would become a much deeper relationship with him because we would understand more where he's coming from. But I mean, what do you think about that?
No, I mean I felt so when I met Remy and felt him, there was a connection there physically, but also cultural similarities that I was used to, and I felt a good connection there that he personally was the whole reason that I wanted to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. And without him, I did it on my own for him, with him because of that. But yeah, no, he was always growing that. I remember, towards the end there, he would ask me to take notes and give them to him so he could give them to others and things like that. And he didn't start out doing that. It was always growing deeper and deeper. So yeah.
I could see now that you started working more on your Tagalog and stuff. I mean, think about the fun conversations you have with Bobby and all of our Filipino friends,
right?
And then Remy, because Remy wanted a taste of home.
Yep.
When I started doing Balint's Walk, yes, he wanted to know the material, but he also wanted to talk about the stories. He wanted to reminisce about
Reminence?
things. Reminess.
You
I
like that?
remember at the Georgia camp, the last one Remy taught before he went, Chuck, Remy came in my room, Chuck came with him, and we started talking, about nothing but Balintawak. And Ted was like loading my head up very quickly with all the stories. And we started talking about this stuff. Well, Tim, did you know that Ted was a Balintawak champion in the club? No, but he told me you were. Well, I was too, but he was too. I'm like, really? And I like, Ted, is this true? Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. I mean, Ted downplayed it, which is cool. They're just, that they're like, being like that. And I'm like, so the people are on their own. There's a couple things like I'll tell you what we do for those people. We've done the right thing, but we don't just do it. We vet them.
Mhm.
So Ty was one of those people. He was underranked, overrated. His ability did not represent what he would have been wearing on his belt in a formal event. I like putting it that way, because really at the end of the day, you just prove yourself on the mat and figures that.
Yep.
We felt what needed to be done, and things that and I knew Ty from a long time ago, and you were probably fast track quicker than anybody else because we had that relationship. I knew who you were, and you're hanging out with John as well, and stuff. And we just picked up for where we left off, and things got even better, And when we did things, we did what we felt was the right thing, and we asked for nothing in return. We didn't ask for you to become a member. We didn't ask you to join have your club join or anything. It was just, here. This is what we're doing. If you're on your own, what I would recommend is finding a group like ours, not necessarily us, but let's say we'll use ours as the example, because we do help people. We'll interview people, we'll talk to them, and we've done this after we vetted people like Sifu Alex.
Mhm.
So Mike Williams is a student of Sifu Alex.
Mhm.
Sifu Alex was a 4th degree from the 80s.
Mhm.
Mike's hanging out with us. Mike is coming to multiple events. We're teaching together in New Hampshire. He's come taught at our events, and a whole bunch of us sit together and say, there's no way he should be wearing that belt. So we promoted him to 4th degree. We wanted to promote him to 5th, but he would outrank his teacher. There was no way we were going to do that. And we also made sure he was okay with this.
Mhm.
The following year was the anniversary camp, the 65th. And we invited Sifu Alex because we were going to promote Mike to 5th degree where we wanted to in the first place, but it was a year later. And then we took Sifu Alex and promoted him to 6th degree because, once again, I crossed hands with him on multiple times. We vetted him. We just don't first time. It's not like, hey, I meet you for the first time. Let's teach a seminar together, and now you're a 6th degree.
Right. But you
Not
people
how we've
crossed
done it.
hands with him. They worked out with him. He shared a bit and helped people.
And we knew he was legitimate modern artiste. He studied with Remy.
Yep.
And I got to see, and I remember seeing photos of him with Remy back in the day in magazines and ads and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that was him. Yes, it was him. So I vetted by a whole bunch of people. We did what was right. Now, here's the thing. We're not promoting him again. If he wants to go higher, then he would have to then talk to us about getting on our program, because we did the right thing once. We've if Remy was, for what he's done, what would Remy have done? Remy would have promoted him.
Mhm.
But we're not going to continue to promote him. Oh, I see Paulo over on Instagram watching the show. So what I would do is you could try to find your favorite upper rank instructor. The World Modern Race Alliance does have a protocol. So if you're interested in doing this, you would need to be vetted. First of all, I'd have to make sure. He goes, yo. We'd have to make sure that you were legitimate, because I've had some claims that make no sense to me. Oh, I was this degree. Really? That's funny because that outranks me and others, and we've never heard of you. But whatever. That was right from Remy. Oh, you were 7th degrees from Remy. Yeah. Okay. All right. Only know of one in the States, and that was done in 77. Ron Van Cleef. But you know, I would find a group or an instructor you want to work with and see. Tell them, I'd be upfront with them. Hey, listen, if you're not interested in joining an association, to say, what would it take for me to be able to test for a black belt or this level of black belt with you? And we've done promotions. We've also done gradings. We've promoted people that we know better. There's no reason to do this. That was, this person's been forever today, can constantly training, never stopped after Remy passed. Like Sifu Alex, very evident. There's no question. That was a no-brainer. My friend Tim Murray, no-brainer. David Converse, the Joliet, Illinois camp host, another no-brainer. So if you're on your own and you're looking for that, I would see who you like or respect. And David Foggy joined on Instagram. Reach out to see who you like and respect, and then reach out to them and have a dialogue. Hey, I've been here for, X amount of years. Hey, I was a student of Remy's. I just had no avenue to get rank, and I'd like to continue. If it's just personal, I don't want to say I wouldn't do anything. I'm concerned more about the people who need to go up because they have students. See, because at the end of the day, like if it was just me and the guys training at the house, we would all know the pecking order. We don't need a piece of paper or a stripe on a piece of cloth to tell us who's whom in the zoo. We figure that out at the time, and it's just a team working out anyway, so it doesn't even matter. We're all there. Mm-hmm. But if you have a cadre of students, you need to be high enough to be able to promote them to where they should be. What are your thoughts?
No, yeah. In fact, actually, I ran up against that a couple of times when I had to, when I was a hermit for a while, and I didn't care about advancing, but I also couldn't help my students who had their own students in their schools advance where they needed to be so that they could advance their students. That kind of good stuff. It trickles on down, and so I was made to be aware of that, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. I still never sought rank, but it's a real issue, really.
So Matt wants to know, do you do Kung Fu on your YouTube channel?
I have a private YouTube that has some Kung Fu. I think my public one has 1 or 2 things on there. I really, for the Kung Fu stuff, I keep my advanced students going and I keep training myself, but that is not my primary visible thing anymore.
Okay. All right. Do you have any more advice for the people on the show before we talk about what next week's show is going to be?
No, I think I said it with my rant about, what is rank and promotions really for, which we've talked about before, but that would be my main go back to thing. I think some of the discussions today touch around different aspects of that. And so I think it's interesting, but yeah, nothing else except to reiterate that, what and who rank and promotions are for.
Cool. All right. So the February 10th, I'm going to have my next hybrid seminar, doing a physical and virtual. It's the immersion weekend, the Blintwalk immersion weekend, which that event has sold out. But we are doing a 2-hour spot there, open to the public and our virtual attendees from around the country and overseas. So it's going to be about disarming and controls, especially moves inside of our Blintwalk, doing the Bakan Buat lineage, the young group methodology. Although I like using the groups as a tool to teach. Mm-hmm. Next week's show is going to be a fun one. It is things you need to know before you go to the Philippines. With the FMA festival being right around the corner, we want to go talk about that. I'm trying to get somebody from the Philippines to hop on with us it has been very difficult because it's coming to the wire for the festival in the Philippines. So people don't they're hustling to make things good. So it's harder to get them on board for the show. So we're going to talk about some of the things: ground transportation, lodging, currency exchange, things of this nature, things that you need to know. And then we'll talk about Lynetta Park at night or during the day, and then Lynetta Park at night, which is a whole nother experience. But then again, I don't know. Haven't been there since COVID, so it's going to be interesting to see what things. And for those who are going over there for the the Price's Legacy event, as well as the FMA Festival, I will be in the neighborhood. So reach out to me. We'll meet up somewhere. All right. You're good, Ty?
I'm good. Yep.
All right. Well, listen, this is always a pleasure. You know, we've had a lot of viewership tonight. A lot of viewers. We had over 20 viewers live, which is, I think, a lot for us. Mm-hmm. We've actually been doing really well, keeping in the 20s, consistently. Oh, we got a couple thumbs up, a couple hearts. We got from Faith Creek, whoever's Creech, Jesse Ramones. Oh, that's our friend our driver over there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
A few other people locally. So we had like 10 of those, 19 likes. Mr. Hillman, Ken Jower, Dr. Leader, and others. Sharif Bay. Oh, Sharif Bay.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Sifu.
So Brian says, good night, guys. And then Eric says, good night, gentlemen. So like I said, next week, talking about the Philippines.
Nice.
And it'll be a fun one. So listen, with no further ado, this is always a pleasure. So everybody, and thank you. Always great to hear you. Okay. And so everybody, this is Dr. Tim.
PG Ty.
Saying everyone stay safe and see you all soon.